Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Austrian campaign in the Balkans in Empire-Total War. The year is 1702. Slightly over 2 years into the Austrian campaign in the Balkans and their so far extremely successful war against the Ottoman Empire. The Austrians have taken Bosnia, Serbia, Bulgaria, and Romania. Plans were made to move north into Moldavia and to conduct naval operations against the Ottomans, forcing them to sign a peace treaty renouncing all their territories in the Balkans. However, the stubborn Ottomans refused to yield just yet, and in 1702, a mere 6 months after the fall of Istanbul, and not even that long, a huge organised rebellion, aided by the regular Ottoman army, has taken place in the Thracian farms between Sofia, Bulgaria, and Istanbul itself. The Ottoman rebels are currently organised into 2 separate armies. The main rebels from Istanbul in one, with mostly irregular infantry such as Janissaries, Arab warriors, Azab irregulars, the Bashai Bazouks, and Janissaries of the Barbary States. To the north of them is the regular Ottoman army, the one that was stationed near Thessaloniki, but spent most of the front, most of these 2 years, spent most of these 2 years of the war in Epirus, fighting the Venetians. Somewhat unsuccessfully, as both Athens and Parthas still remain in Venetian hands, and the Venetian navy has wreaked havoc in the Mediterranean for the Ottomans. They now move to the northeast and aid the rebels. Should the rebellion succeed, both Istanbul and Sofia could potentially fall, but not only that, all the progress made so far by the Austrian army will have been for naught, as after the fall of these 2 important, even vital cities to the war effort, both Belgrade and Sarajevo would be vulnerable to attack, and by the time new Austrian troops arrived from Vienna, it will have been too late to reverse the damage done. To put it more simply, it is do or die for both sides. On one hand, the Ottomans must succeed in their rebellion, aided by the regular army, of course. Should they fail, they will lose any hope of winning the war and returning to the Balkans. They will be reduced to a third-grade power in the east, and lose influence in the European theatre forever, or at least for the remainder of the century, most likely. Their rivals, the Austrians, will have become too powerful, and it would simply be too late to actually do anything against them at that point. They must succeed in this rebellion. They must retake their capital as well as the province of Bulgaria, and hope to begin driving the Austrians out of the lands that they, up until 2 years ago, held firmly. Should they fail, they will not only lose the territory and perhaps permanent access to Europe, they will also most likely lose any naval presence and influence they have in the area, as both the Venetian and the Russian fleets, along with the Austrian limited naval presence in the area, will be able to raid Anatolia up and down its coasts, inflicting massive economic damage and simply reducing the Ottoman Empire to a mere shadow of its former self. It is also well known that both Cairo and Baghdad are in turmoil, and it is speculated in some corners of the world that a collapse of the Ottoman Empire is inevitable should they lose in the Balkans. On the other hand, though, for the Austrians, losing to this Ottoman rebellion is simply not an option. Should they lose their two most important settlements in the Balkans currently, all of their progress will have been for naught, and they will have to retreat all the way back to their borders in 1700. They will most likely be able to hold on to Bosnia, but by the time reinforcements arrive from Vienna, the Ottomans will have reclaimed too much territory, and the losses in both manpower and economically, the investments and the failed projects, and the now, at that point, conquered buildings and mines and etc. that they've built in the new provinces will simply be in the hands of their enemies, and of course that will be devastating for the Austrian Empire. So, effectively, do or die for both empires, and on the fields between Sofia and Istanbul is where history will be written. With that, no more nor less being the odds, may the battles begin. And it seems that these will be two separate battles. And that is perfectly alright. I think that suits us better. Alright, let's go. And here we are. It appears that the first battle will be in the north against the northern Ottoman army. The Austrians have brought 5 regiments, 5 whole regiments of fixed artillery. 3 have been brought in from Istanbul, which were previously attached to Prince Eugen's army, and 2 were already present in the with the forces stationed in Bulgaria. So this is more than likely the largest artillery force ever brought to a single battlefield by the Austrian armed forces since, well, really the introduction of artillery into the Austrian army. However, it is absolutely necessary as well. The Austrians are hopelessly outnumbered. The Ottomans have more cavalry, more infantry, more melee infantry. The only thing the Ottomans don't have is artillery, and, well, that one advantage, the Austrians have pressed hard. It will all depend on how quickly the Ottomans, or if, rather, but how quickly and if the Ottomans are able to get to the Austrian guns. And we have the first shots being fired. This is good. This is very, very good. The only thing that worries me currently is this huge block of infantry coming up the center towards my artillery. That is going to be a problem. But other than that, have you not fired? I think these guys have simply not shot their weapons yet, which is tragic. Problem is their Janissaries do outrange us, and significantly. However, the solution, if one can say so, is artillery, as, well, I think is to nobody's surprise, really. Because the one thing that they don't outrange is fixed artillery. 24-pounders. Let's pull back to the cannons and, see what we can do. This Arab cavalry won't stand a chance in a straight-up fight against line infantry, provided the line infantry is willing to shoot. Excellent. Truly, truly excellent. Okay. Now, it's vital that these forces get eliminated. Troops on the flanks over here, less so. We can take those out with infantry of our own, but the ones in the center need killing. I mean, how devastating it must be for the morale of the enemy to fight a foe with so much firepower. Truly, it is something worth considering. Yeah, no wonder they're just breaking and fleeing. That is... like 30 cannons firing on them at any given time. Truly impressive. Alright, but once again, let's pull back. We don't actually want to chase the Ottomans. Focus fire with those cannons there, and with these cannons there on the Arab warriors. Oh, well, actually, the Janissaries are coming back into the fight. Let's keep firing. I'm just imagining if we had shrapnel shot, how this battle would look. Well, one day, most likely. Okay, I think a well-timed cavalry charge here will make a very big impact in the battle. Oh, yes, indeed. Oh, yes, indeed. Truly, truly spectacular. awe-inspiring display of firepower and modern European might. I say modern, relatively modern. Right, let's close to melee and be done with this. This battle is over. But this is only half the work done. Though, if we are to be honest, it is the more difficult part. This was a closer battle, but also, having eliminated half the enemy force, we could actually join forces here and fight together, but with fixed artillery, it's not going to make much of a difference. And here we are then, on a nice and mostly level field. A bit more to the south. We are going to need to relocate our artillery pretty much immediately, but that's fine. That's why we've paid for them so dearly. So that we have the ability to move them around on the battlefield. And we'll be able to judge the effectiveness of these cannons as well. 2 regiments is, I think, enough firepower to give us a good idea of just how good these weapons are at inflicting morale damage and straight-up casualties on the enemy, and just how the reduction in firepower compared to the fixed artillery will affect their combat effectiveness and generally their role in the war. Well, to be fair, so far they haven't hit much, but give them time, I suppose. The flexibility which they allow, though, is quite important. They now give us, effectively, the luxury of standing still in a highly defensible position for basically ever. As long as we have more cannons than the enemy. And it will always force whoever we're fighting to march towards us. And there are obvious advantages to that. So, let's prepare for the arrival of the Ottoman forces in weapons range. Ooh, I see something. Let's deploy like this, and then like this. Yeah. We do need to be careful not to hit our own men, though. Could you stack up, please? Thank you. I think it's time we use the cavalry a little bit more. Haven't seen much use recently. Basically did not participate in the siege of Constantinople, apart from running down some of the retreating soldiers, and I think they'll be ideal for dealing with these Malian rebels. So let's have them do that. Yeah, and unlimber these. Are we actually... Oh, are we out of range? Yeah, we're out of range. Alright. Truly magnificent. And we've discovered an additional 3 blocks of the Ottoman forces in the process, but it is what it is. Perhaps this was the ideal way to uncover where they were hiding. I do like that they're fighting almost like a guerrilla war here, basically. They are acting very differently to the regular army. I genuinely believe cavalry is just going to wipe the floor with all of these. We need to stop shooting those as soon as the cavalry makes contact with them. Oh, and ceasefire on the cannons as well. Yeah, ceasefire. That was a good final volley, but like now, leave it to these guys. Limber up the guns again. Commander of this rebellion is dead, which is fantastic news. I'll have them charge the Arab warriors over on that hill now. But we're gonna need to just move these cannons a little bit. A little bit. I'll move them halfway across the battlefield, but yes, a little bit. Right, now actually hold fire. Good. The cavalrymen deserve a promotion. Like, our entire cavalry force earned itself a promotion. Alright, sprint for the last few yards. And I think if we just retreat with the cavalry now up the hill over here, the Ottomans should stay back, which is exactly what I want them to do. Because I have a terrific position here. I would love to make use of it. Depends. Doesn't look like they're gonna do much. Okay, good. Now just like move over a little bit. I'm gonna put the cannons right here. And we're gonna have them fire on the Ottomans. Oh, and of course, everyone fire at will. Should the enemy come into range. Good. Oh well, it was a good idea until I realised I actually have troops that completely outrange all of ours by like 50 feet or so. Mind you, these are melee forces. These are melee forces. Well, no, these are matchlocks, right? Yeah, and the range is not perfect on those either. Alright. What if we position our cannons like so? See what happens. An experiment on the battlefield, if you will. Get the cannons into position. Unlimber. And fire at will. Fairly impressive, one has to be honest. Fairly impressive. Of course, one volley was all they were ever going to get, but still, fairly impressive. Cavalry can cavalry can pick those off. And right now, well, this. In the words of a British, in the words of a French general, magnificent, truly magnificent, but it isn't war. I think very, very fitting for this entire situation here. It's truly a magnificent charge, but this isn't war. This is more of a massacre. Right, excellent. I think I'll continue just to make sure we chase down most of the rebels. Of course, they are not prisoners of war. These are rebels, and thus they shall be given no quarter. If you do find any Ottoman officers among them, though, we will take those prisoner. Alright. Excellent. So, the rebellion's not over yet. There is still a small Ottoman force to the south, moving again towards Thessalonica. And it's the same army that came from Thessalonica, but effectively, yeah. This is actually going really, really well. Effectively speaking, we've basically won. And here then falls the last organized Ottoman army in the Balkans. Again, that's with an asterisk. Well, I've completely forgotten about these up here. Well, at the very least, here fall the last Ottoman troops in the territory of the Austrian Empire. We can say that for certain. As far as the rest is concerned, we'll have to wait and see if there will be any more of them coming. If there will be any more of them in the Balkans. How that entire thing is going to go, we will have to wait and see. But for now, on the territory of the Austrian Empire, there are no more Ottoman forces. And as of today, officially, all the war goals of the Austrian Empire in its war against the Ottomans and its campaign in the Balkans have been fulfilled. It's now time to come to the table with Mustafa II and try and negotiate a peace between our two great empires, and that they just straight up accept. Alright. Very good. Unconditional peace. That is all. I do not demand any tribute, or rather, we do not demand any tribute from the Ottomans. We will simply have peace between our peoples. Excellent. It would be good to conduct trade with, well, someone. Let me just see who. Spain isn't particularly friendly to us, so probably not. That's the United Provinces, I think. Oh, but we can do more than that. Piedmont, Savoy. And Sweden, I suppose? Well, they are a mighty empire. Sort them out by attitude. Yeah, Sweden would be the good option. So would Portugal. No. Alright, good. There we go. And we could actually begin trading with the Ottomans if they wish. Which they do. Okay. Well then, in the true spirit of modern European politics, yesterday's enemies are today's allies, or at best, or sorry, or at least trade partners. It's a shame that they never got to, well, it's a shame for them, of course, that they never got to bring their cannons to the front lines, or really bring any of their more elite units from the east over here, as during the recent Ottoman expansion prior to our campaign, the Ottomans were mostly expanding eastwards towards Mesopotamia and towards Egypt. In the Barbary states, they've actually puppeted, and this is the result of their most recent military campaigns. So a lot of their troops were tied down over here, and like I mentioned, there were riots and civil disorder in these newly, well, not newly conquered, but somewhat recently conquered provinces, and obviously that all presented a problem for them, but regardless, there will be rebellions in Istanbul, obviously, in the future. There will be rebellions. The Sublime Porte, Porta, I think it's Porta, despite the E at the end, will need to be repaired, and it's going to be a huge project. It was damaged both during the siege and during the rebellion later, or the riots in Constantinople later. It will need to be repaired, but so far, the Austrian Empire does not have any immediate enemies in Europe. or anywhere else in the world, for that matter. It is free to continue to go about its business as it sees fit. For now, this will be the end of our campaign here. I'll probably play a little bit more more off camera, because I really do enjoy Imperial Splendour. It does have its problems, obviously. The game has its problems as well. Not a huge fan of it compared to other Total War titles, but the sheer size of the map and the time period do make it an interesting experience. So yeah. Anyways, the AI just running back and forth on the battle map is a little bit annoying, and I try to ignore that. But you know, yeah. Anyways. Thank you very much for watching this series, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an absolute joy to record, and I think it was all right. Sort of like a mix between a traditional Let's Play and a little bit more scripted story, narrative, event telling. That sense doesn't make a lot of sense. Like it's a mix between like a storytelling sort of episode and the proper traditional Let's Play. So I think it worked out for the most part. I genuinely do. It was very fun to record, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. But for now, that'll be pretty much it. Like, subscribe down below if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time in a different series. This has been terrific. We've done exactly what I wanted. Economically, we are now among the stronger nations in the world. In case you haven't noticed, this tweaks the income quite a bit, and everything's more expensive now, so yeah. It's fun, though. It's a fun mod. I recommend you download it. It's on ModDB. You can check it out yourselves. It's also on the forums. You can grab it. There are 2 different starts to the mod. The more recent one, with more overhauled mechanics and more units and stuff, is the one with the later start. I'm playing the older mod with the traditional Empire Total War start, because, well, I prefer the older start, to be honest, and it sticks a little bit closer to vanilla than the other version of the mod. So yeah, but there are options for both, so you can take whichever you like. I also love the fact that it makes the whole map way more dynamic. For example, we've had, like, Portugal fall, and then we've had a revolution in Portugal, and now Portugal's a nation again. Makes the whole thing more dynamic. AI doesn't do a great job at handling public order, but, you know, there's charm in all of that as well. I think it's a great sort of story-based experience and a sort of role-play sense. But as for a challenge, yeah, there's not all that much of that. But, anyways. I really wish the Ottomans put up more of a fight. I really do, but they were tied down on all fronts, and the game's balanced so that no empire is way too powerful at the start, except for the English, like, sod the English. But yeah, the game's like balanced that way, so that really wherever you are in the world, you have a relatively balanced start. So yeah. Anyways, I haven't even touched upon India. Like, that's a whole thing you can explore as well for yourselves. It's truly great. Had a lot of fun doing it. Anyways, have fun. Take care. Bye bye.